we kind of prep and get all our cameras rolling. We'll be going live on a lot of different channels tonight. So again, just give us a second here, and welcome for sure.
Good.
We're good. Our producer Devin Menino says we are live. Guys, so we'll just give it a second here as everybody kind of spools up, get our audio rolling. But again, thank you so much for joining us live tonight. I am Nathan Zelinsky. Guys, again, we've been running this show since May. Hopefully, building education, talking, tactics, gear, everything in the hunting world to hopefully make you guys slightly more educated and hopefully more successful as a hunter and more success in the field with achieving all your goals. Again, so a huge thanks to everybody for joining me. Again, I am Nate Zelinsky. Just as we get all the cameras spooled up, let everybody kind of build an audience. But again, Devin says we are live and good. So huge thanks, guys, to Bowtech Archery for allowing us to take over their page and allowing us to go live from that platform. So again, huge thanks to Bowtech for that. Guys, you could be watching this on many different platforms. Huge thanks to Diamond Archery for going live on their page. Black Gold Sights, Ripcord, Rests, Tight Spot Quivers, Bass Pro Shops at Denver. Huge thanks to Mr. Heater for taking the feed. Obviously, a huge fan of Mr. Heater keeping us warm in all our blinds, especially this time of year as we get into our winter hunt. So a huge thanks to Mr. Heater for keeping us warm and having a very scent-free heater for sitting inside blinds and such. So huge thanks to them. Also, you can be watching this on Excalibur, Tightline Outdoors, or the Nate Zelinsky page. And for everybody that does not participate in social media, you might be watching this on the bowtecharchery.com. So a huge thanks to everybody on bowtecharchery.com that's watching. As always, guys, share this with your friends, tag your buddies. If you're looking to build more education, want to get better as a hunter, you have... everybody has those trials and tribulations where you struggled. We want to overcome those with hurdles. We want to leaps and bound past that to where everybody's achieving their goals, or at least somewhat getting close to their goals every time they're in the field. So make sure you comment and bring all those friends, and let's build that education together. If it's something that I don't know, I'll call somebody, we'll get them on FaceTime, and we'll get your questions answered. So again, just this show is all about you. So thanks to everybody for watching. It's all about you, the listeners. Text your questions, comments, and we'll go from there. Obviously, we are in that point to where some of the big game seasons are wrapping up, depending where you're at. Some people are just starting their hunts. Really, we have viewers watching from all across the country. So depending on where you're at, more than likely, obviously our elk are in post-rut, our bears are starting to hibernate. Deer, depending on where you're at. We are in rut conditions or post-rut conditions, depending on where you're at. I'm here in Colorado, broadcasting live with this show. We are in that post-rut situation. I have a lot of animals that are still running extremely hard. I have some deer that are just now starting to kind of lighten up on that rut. I have a deer tag right now. I'm being extremely picky. I went live from this page not too long ago on Instagram, and I was literally 8 yards from a buck. I mean, these deer are, a lot of the deer that are still in the rut are extremely easy to sneak up on. I've had a lot of opportunities on deer that you probably should shoot. As a hunter, you have that situation where you probably should be shooting them, but I didn't. I'm waiting for the monster. I have my eye on one or two particular bucks, and I'm waiting till those bucks show up. So that's kind of where we're at there. But again, we're talking, tactics, how you harvest those bucks in the rut, how you do post-rut, and everything that's kind of tied with that. So those are kind of the concepts for the night. We're going to be talking about my particular approach on rutting deer. Then we're going to be talking about this past season and how to start preparing for next season. Also have to give a huge thanks, guys. We have some new viewers. I know we sent out a text alert. So again, all your data stuff applies with those text alerts. But guys, huge thanks to everybody that received those text alerts that opted in to text to know when we go live. So huge thanks to everybody at the Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal that took that quiz about shot placement on elk. A lot of you are on here tonight, so huge thanks to that. Huge thanks to all Jim Burnsworth's fans and all the extreme, Western Extreme guys that are coming on here tonight. So again, obviously a huge fan of Jim and everything he does in the field. I was just hunting with some friends of his in South Dakota right before they went on his boat out there. I wish I was with Jim on that boat out at Kodiak. So huge thanks to Jim and all the Western Extreme fans for taking this. Also a huge thanks to all the Train to Hunt audience. I know there's a bunch of you out there that have this, and obviously a huge thanks to all the Bowtech dealers that have been sending people to watch this live feed. So again, it's all about building that community, guys. We want to build the community, build the education, to where, again, we're all more successful. I mean, whether it's learning about property, learning about how to fill out tags, learning how to be more successful, it's all an educational thing. If anybody thinks that they got it dialed, you're in for a big mistake at some point in time. It's all a big learning curve. Every time you think you got them, the animals prove to you that you don't have them. And things change, patterns change, environment changes, weather changes. So again, it's all just a big challenge and a big concept of education and trying to stay on top of it. So we'll do everything we can to stay on top of that and build that education. But I want to talk about rutting deer here real quick before we jump on to everything else. Obviously, the deer rut is something that people wait for the entire year. Again, whether you're whitetails, mule deer, everything in between. Hunting the rut is awesome. You take advantage of daytime hours, hopefully making these deer that sometimes might be nocturnal, spending more time during the day. You have the opportunity of these animals spending more time on their feet during the rut, which is huge. And there's a lot of times where you have deer that just live in, whether it's a swamp or a dark mountain hillside or whatever the case may be, you have animals that live in the gnarliest country available, and they only come out during the rut, and that's the only time you see these animals. So hunting the rut is so valuable for so many things. Now, the one thing that we see, especially like the situation where I'm at, in Colorado, we have mountain mule deer and we have Eastern Plains mule deer. Both have their challenges. Eastern Plains deer are nice because a lot of times you can literally drive around in a vehicle with a spotting scope, your Vortex optics, and you can look for 10 miles. It's a lot easier to find these animals. Now, getting on them in a lot of times open country can be extremely tough. As opposed to your mountain mule deer, it's harder to find them. You don't have near the vantage points to glass from. You can get on top of a mountain and glass a couple miles, but a lot of times you're having to manually by foot move around enough to find these animals. But the advantage you have there is once you find them, generally speaking, you have a hillside to sneak up, get very close, and make the shot. So advantages to both. But the thing that I want to talk about in this rut type situation is if the cycle works appropriately. If you have good weather, rutting weather, so some snow on the ground, cooler temps, good moon phases aligning with that, crops are cut, whatever the case may be to help your rut situation in the area that you're at. When the conditions are right, a lot of times the does will go into heat, everything will happen quickly, and if the big buck you're chasing, if the first group of does that he comes on are ready to breed, a lot of times that buck will literally find those does and stay with those does for an extended amount of time, whether it's 1-2 days or 2 weeks, depending on how the breeding goes. But a lot of times having does in heat and a lot of females in the area can really make a buck stay tight. Now, if that buck is staying on does in the particular field that you're hunting or the drainage that you're hunting or the area that you're hunting, again, depending on, regionally where you're at, if that buck's on the property you're hunting, it's great because he's going to stay around because of the does. But if it's a property that you're not hunting, it's hard because a lot of times that buck doesn't leave those does. So a lot of times, when everybody wants a great rut, I personally am a huge fan of an odd rut, a really warm year where they're not running as hard, or no snow on the ground, whatever. I try to keep the bucks moving around just so you generally run into them more to get more opportunities. So I'm a big fan of that when you're talking rut conditions. Now, where I'm at here is my favorite time of year. So where I'm hunting these deer right now, everybody's like, man, Nate, we know you got a deer tag. How come you're not out in the field? How come you're not chasing them? I literally have been playing it easy. I've been glassing these deer, looking for them, but for me personally, post-rut, and I mean like right as the deer start coming out of the rut is my favorite time of year. So the does and the bucks have been together for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks now. And as we start approaching basically the tail end of that rut, I love it because obviously a buck deer, a big buck mule deer, or even a big buck whitetail, the second that he starts seeing these does going out of heat, he sees them coming out of the breeding season, very rarely is he ready just to give it up. He's a guy. Unfortunately, that's just what it is. So, he can't just hang it up and say, okay, I'm done. I'm moving on. I'm into post-rut situations. I'm going to go back into the dark timber, back into the swamp, back into whatever. They just don't give it up that easy. They can't let it go. I'm sure all the females out there are watching this are like, I know it. The guys just can't let it go. They got to keep bringing it up. It's the same type thing in the animal world. So these bucks can't just drop it. So a lot of times the group of does that he's on and he's been breeding, as they fade out of that rut cycle, this big buck will start cruising around. Sometimes this only lasts for a couple days. Sometimes it can linger for a week or more. But the second that his particular does are done, he's going to go around and make sure that there's not other does still in heat that he has the opportunity to breed. I love the fact at this time of year, because all of a sudden, every day that I go out in the field, I see new animals. So literally every day that I go out there, I'm seeing bucks that I haven't seen in the past 2 weeks, even the past month, even the past 3 months. Because again, they're bucks that might not live in the area in which I'm normally hunting or normally would view these animals. And the second we get, again, that post-rut situation, they're on the prowl looking for new animals to breed. So, I mean, I've seen these deer walk 2-3 miles in a night to look for active does and look for does that are still breeding. So for me personally, I have a hard time shooting a deer early in the season, especially if my tag lasts long enough to where I can get to that post-rut situation. Now, every one of my buddies is hardcore trying to fill the tag while the rut's going on, because they're like, man, they're easier to hunt, and there's no doubt they are. When that buck is, you know, nose on the ground or nose into a doe, it's a lot easier to sneak up and actually make the shot on this type animal. But the problem is every time that I look at a buck during that rut, I'm just like, man, what else is out there? Now, if I see the tank of all deer, if I see that 200-incher, obviously I'll go after it. But if I'm just seeing that really nice deer, but not anything that's out of this world, for me personally, I'm going to hold off. Just waiting for that post-rut conditions when I know these bucks are going to go on the prowl. Now, the second they do that, like I said, it might only last a day or two. Maybe if we're real lucky, it'll last a week or 10 days. But regardless, those couple days or those 10 days sometimes can be literally the best days of the entire season, as new deer are coming out and coming available to you, the hunter, on a daily basis. So for me personally, we're just on that tail end of that rut, and so many guys are upset about it and sad about it. I love it, just simply for the fact that I'm seeing new deer. And a lot of times it's that type of year where I see literally some of the biggest deer of the entire year, just because they're covering so much ground looking for does. So again, looking at your opportunities, I ask people, you know, again, you're the whitetail hunter in you know, Kentucky, you're in Wisconsin, you're Wyoming, wherever you're coming from. I mean, we have viewers from all over the place. How many of you fill your tags pre-rut or during the rut? And how many people have spent time in the woods in the tail end of that right post-rut situations? A lot of us literally fill our tags before that happens, and a lot of us don't necessarily know what those conditions are like. They don't know what that brings. And I promise you, it can bring on some of the best hunting of the season. So again, whether you've already tagged out or you've never thought of that style of hunting, I encourage you to try that. Go out right now. Go out tomorrow. Set some trail cameras, whatever you have to do. Try to spend some time in the field, whether physically or with cameras, and look at the deer coming through your area as you get into this post-rut style. I promise you, it's going to lead you to possibly a whole new style of hunting in this post-rut situation. So it's something to definitely check out. Now, I got some other things to talk about, but I see we got some questions. So Devin's right behind us. You can see him on this camera view right here. If everybody wonders what I'm talking to or who I'm talking to, we got a lot of computer screens, and we got quite the program running here behind you. But Devin, what do you got for a question?
Owen Hutchinson on Instagram wants to know how you avoid what we call jumping the string, but how do you avoid this? What do you do to stop the deer from jumping?
When you're shooting a deer and you're talking about an animal jumping the string, it's a nightmare, to be totally honest with you, because you never know. There's, you talk to hunters, myself, that get so used to a whitetail ducking as you fire, that everybody aims low, but all of a sudden you get that buck that, whether he's rutting up or the fact that he has no idea you're there, and you aim low and he does not duck, and all of a sudden you hit him low, or you completely miss that animal for anticipation because of that. You really have to, number one, know your animals. So you have to know how much pressure has been put on these animals. So if you're hunting private property with other ranches around you, or you're hunting in an area where these deer get lots of pressure, those deer are going to be more spooky. If you're in a situation to where, as that animal is coming in, if your wind is kind of wrong, or if you're hunting a low stand, that's the type of situation where you're almost going to anticipate these animals having that fear and jumping that string. So things that I personally do is, one, obviously if I can do everything I can to hunt lower pressure areas, so not as much hunting pressure in the area so the deer aren't as spooky. Two, it's a love-hate relationship. I talked to Jeremy Starks about this, and he hangs his tree stands extremely high for that type reason. You have guys that hang their stands 12 feet up, and that's where the deer are gonna see that movement as you fire, and they're gonna duck your string. You have guys that hang the stands 40, 50 feet up. That deer's never going to know what's happening. But again, you start getting that high in the tree, and you're starting to get some severe compensation on your shot angles, which can be tough to deal with. So I try to go with that happy median. When I'm hanging stands, I try to go to that 25 to 30 feet. I'm high enough up to where hopefully the deer don't notice that type thing, but low enough to where I don't have crazy shot angle. And I know I'm on the Bowtech page, right? I'm going live from them. Everybody's gonna say I'm just saying this because I have to because I work with Bowtech. But shooting a quieter, faster bow is going to be one of the biggest things that's really going to help that. Everybody, you've been hearing about the Realm, right? The Realm and the Realm X. This type bow that we're getting, I'm shooting a heavy arrow. I'm shooting a lighter bow than normal. I'm shooting, I'm shooting right at I'm shooting, I think, 61 pounds out of my bow right now. Normally I'm shooting 72 pounds, so I'm shooting 10 pounds less. Shooting an extremely heavy arrow, and I think I'm shooting 460 grains out of that bow right now. And I'm still over 300 feet per second. So that's the type of thing to where you have the new dampening system on the Realm. So this bow is quieter and shooting faster, which obviously is going to help that situation. So shooting the Realm, or any faster, quieter bows, when I put that pin on that animal, I always go as low as I can go and still have a lethal shot. So my general concept is I say, okay, I'm going for a double lung shot behind the shoulder. I'll say mid-body, and I'm going to go down like 3 inches, 2.5 to 3 inches, to where I say if the deer does not duck, it does not move at all, I'm still going to get a double lung shot. It's going to be low on the lungs, but I'm still going to get a clean double lung shot, especially at angle. So if I'm shooting from a higher tree stand and the deer's close, I got to make sure that even as the arrow goes through the opposite side lung, I still have enough height to where I get double lung. So I always go to my lowest point to where I'm still going to get a double lung shot, and I shoot for there. So that way, if the deer does duck, I have some lower elevation to help me compensate for that duck. But if the deer does not jump the string, I still have a lethal shot. And that's really the winning combination. But moral of the story, slightly higher stands, maybe having a quieter blind, trying to hunt animals that aren't as spooky, and a faster, quieter bow is going to be all concepts to help with that string jump. And everybody's made the bad decision, so I wish I had a better answer. But, everybody shot low and the animal didn't jump and you shot under it. Everybody shot normal and the deer does jump and you shoot over it. Trying to find that winning combination. But a quieter bow, faster speeds, and a little stealthier approach, whether a better blind or a higher stand, is going to be a combination that should help you in that concept of dealing with jumping with the string. So hopefully that helped you out. You any more questions there, Devin?
We do. Let's see here.
Devin's just going through the questions.
How long do you typically let a deer rest before you track it, and what distance do you like to keep between you and the deer?
You and the deer. All right, guys, this is the dreaded question. This is Bowtech Live. I'm Nate Zelinsky. Let's face it. Generally speaking, your grandpa taught your dad taught you, and you're teaching your kid. You fire an arrow on an animal, you fire a rifle on an animal. If you do not see the animal fall over, you wait an hour. That's the concept. You shoot an animal and you wait an hour. Generally speaking, you know exactly where you hit your animal. So when I shoot an animal, you guys watch that South Dakota live hunt, right? You see the double cresting. I literally shot that buck and instantly told everybody I hammered him because I have double cresting. I don't have an arrow here, but I put white cresting on 2 places of my arrow to where as my arrow goes into an animal, I know exactly how much penetration I got. So if I can see my arrow hit, so if I know where I hit that animal, I know how much penetration I got, I have a great idea of how long I left to let that animal sit. So if I get a total broadside double lung shot, you would anticipate that animal, passing away, losing life, within a minute or two. If you have that shoulder shot, a lot of times we're going to give it a little bit more time. But really, it's going to be shot placement, penetration is going to give you the general concept of how lethal your shot was. For me personally, if I'm doing a frontal shot, chest shot, frontal shot, and I do not see the animal fall over, I do give it that hour. If I am quartering to or away in any severe angle, so again, quartering to, quartering away, If I do not see that animal fall over within sight, I give it an hour. If I have a total mess up and I'm shooting liver, shooting guts, I'm shooting way back than point of contact, where I should be shooting or where I thought I was trying to shoot. If you hit it too far back, wait that hour. The biggest thing that you avoid is obviously pushing them out of their bed. The longer they sit in their initial bed, the sicker they get. All animals, whitetail, mule deer, elk, bear, we always say they go on their death hike. So many times, if you push an animal out of their second bed, they bed once, get up, bed again. You push them out of that second bed, they literally hang their head and they walk until they die. Sometimes this could be 10, 15, 20 miles. So you always avoid pushing the bed. So once you get up to a shot site, you see where you hit the animal, start following blood, you're going to know pretty quickly how fast you got that animal. Most animals, I know that everybody hates seeing this, but on a good shot, a good double lung style shot, most animals are going to die within 100 yards. Now, if you have a whitetail that's running 1,000,000 miles an hour, they might go 200. But generally speaking, I would say most animals pass away within 100 yards. So my personal rules, not what textbook is supposed to tell me to tell you, what my grandpa taught me type stuff. I shoot that animal, I walk up to shot site, I walk that first 100 yards after a little while. If I do not find that animal within 100 yards, that's when I start slowing down. Generally speaking, I'd say I find 99% of my animals within that 100 yards. You watch that South Dakota hunt, I hit him, literally, he was running down that hill, I threw my binos up, I saw a blood clot come out of, just behind his shoulder, probably the size of a pie plate. I saw his head start to fall, he went over the hill, disappeared. We gave it 4 minutes. I knew I just absolutely hammered him. I saw the penetration because of the double cresting. We walked down there, and he was 5 feet past where I could see him as he crested that hill. I knew I had a lethal shot. We went pretty quick. But again, I would have walked 100 yards. If I didn't see within 100 yards, then I slow down. Generally speaking, that 100 yards is when most animals are gonna go away and pass away after a good vital shot. So 100 yards, go that 100 yards. If you don't see within that 100 yards, start giving it more time. Hopefully that helps out. That was a lot of rambling. It's really situational on spots, but 100 yards is your magic number. After 100 yards, I hate to say it, but something went wrong. If you don't find them within 100 yards, your hit is probably not what you thought. Your penetration wasn't deep enough. Your angle was something goofy. So give it 100 yards. After that, slow way down. And especially, I think everybody, no binos. They just walk on blood as to where, take a step on blood, every blood spot, put your binos up. Look a ways out. Look 100 yards, 200 yards. But every blood spot, look with your binos. And the second you see that animal sitting there, if he's alive, sit down, watch him. But don't push the beds. Pushing the beds is one of the biggest mistakes to losing animals in the field. But again, how many of you throw your binos up on every blood spot? It can be huge to finding those animals. So again, hopefully that helps, guys. And keep sending them. Send your questions. Send your comments. Happy to help out with that. Now, guys, we have some stuff coming up here in the next couple weeks that we want to talk about. I'm not going to get too in-depth to it tonight, but we are going to talk about it briefly. We talked about the elk rutting. How many of you were happy with your success thus far in the big game season? Honest question. Send your comments right now. How many of you, whether you were unsuccessful, whether you were successful, or you accomplished your goals, all of us have a goal. Now, obviously, most of our goals, put an animal down so we have meat in the freezer. I'd say that's it for 95% of us. That's my goal, on top of the fact that I want to shoot the biggest, gnarliest animal on the mountain. I want to shoot the biggest buck, the biggest bull. I still eat that animal, don't get me wrong. By no means do I pass this up. My wife, my kids, we all live on wild game. I have to harvest, at least an elk and a deer a year for food to get me through the next year. It's just what it is. But I know you can't eat antlers, but I love eating the meat off of a bull that has a giant rack. It's just what it is. More so than that, I love the challenge. We talked about the challenge. So I got a picture right here of Ricky. I know a lot of us have heard about the bull Ricky, but literally, I found this bull. Let's show the live picture, Devin. There's the dead Ricky. Instagram. Jump over to one of these other platforms. So right there, we're talking about finding a bull in June. And 120 days later, putting that animal on the ground. We said this. I looked at Tim Glom, a buddy of ours, in early July after watching this bull Ricky for a while, and I said, I will shoot that bull sometime this fall, October, November. Whenever the timing is right, I'll put the stock on. You can see that picture right there. Living to dead, 120-something days that I watched this bull. How many of you accomplished that style goal? Honestly, how many of you walked away from this hunting season so far, whether you're still hunting or you're wrapped up for the year, how many of you accomplished your goals? That's what I want to talk about, because again, whether I'm being greedy because I strive to all bounds to be successful, but regardless, I make it a passion, I make it an objective, I become crazy about it. But I find these animals in June, July, whether it's June, July, August, whatever, and I stay with these animals. I do my scouting, I do my education until they're on the ground later in that hunting season. So I want to hear from you of how many of you honestly achieved your goals. I know obviously our goal is to get an animal, but how many of you wanted a buck, a bull, a bear, whatever, big game species to mount? You wanted something on your wall as a trophy. How many of you got that? How many of you just wanted to have meat in the freezer? Shooting does, shooting cows. And how many of you achieved that? How many of you realistically and honestly achieved your goals for this hunting season? I want to know that, because we started in May talking scouting, talking education, and we brought it full tilt into the hunting season, and we put a lot of animals on the ground. So, Devin, throw us a reel real quick. How many big animals did we put on the ground? So we got right here. Let's throw to one of them. We got Ricky. Obviously, you guys heard about Ricky. You saw Ricky. We'll actually be playing the video of the hunt of Ricky here shortly. We got the big South Dakota buck. You guys watched that one live, so that was fun. We got Vinnie Brown, the legendary taxidermist with his sheep. Waited 33 years for that tag and was very successful on a giant ram. We got that one. We got Chad Vermeer. He was in studio here. We went 80-something days, 84 days without seeing a sheep on that hunt. But he got it done on literally a world-class ram there. That animal was on the ground. Again, you saw it scouting, saw it on the ground. We got Jeremiah Blosser right there with a big bull. Again, you'll be watching that footage here real shortly, but a big giant 6x6 and an overall dream come true for Jer. So again, just putting animals on the ground. You got Bill Bonnell, a buddy of ours from Michigan. I first met Bill when I was 17 years old on a Western hunt. He came back, just turned 35, so whatever that math is, long time. And we put that bull on the ground there. So again, very successful on that hunt. We got Jeremiah's pronghorn, again, his first pronghorn in eastern Colorado. Again, did the scout and found that animal, and same thing. Put the success on the ground. We got Jeremiah's brother, Robert Blosser. I don't know how many of you saw this hunt. Guys, this was literally, how long ago was that, Devin? 10 days ago? Recent, very recent. Just literally
weekend before Thanksgiving.
Weekend before Thanksgiving. Hammered that animal on a Saturday. So, yeah, 9 days ago, whatever that was, we put that animal on the ground. So, very successful hunt for Bobby right there. And then we have the biggest bull of the season. We got RW. We're actually gonna show RW next week live on the show. But RW, an absolute massive bull there. Got any more of them?
That's the end of the run.
Perfect. That's the end of the run. So, guys, coming back here to me in studio, you saw a bunch of those bulls right there. You saw a bunch of the pronghorn, the sheep. I hate to say it, but so many of these animals were world class. We were able to accomplish that. Myself, my friends, again, you have Scott Sanborn, who we talked about in the last video. We were successful on all these animals because we put the hard work in. None of those animals were killed on private ground. It's all public property. It's all stuff that you, the hunter, can accomplish. Everybody that's watching this could literally get a tag and hunt these animals that we're on. It's just the fact that we take it to the next step. We put all of our focus on education, on scouting, to be successful. Now, I want to talk about the success rate because, again, it comes down to the success of achieving your goals. How many of you achieved those goals? Again, I want to know how many of you did, because if you didn't, now is the time to start building that education. Every hunter out there right now, hunting season's over, they're done, they put the weapons away, they put the bows away, and they forget about it until spring. All of a sudden, sometime January, February, March, April, depending on what state you're in, you're like, man, okay, time to put in for tags again. I need to start thinking about putting in draw, or, however it is in the area that which you hunt. But hey, I got to think for 10 minutes why I put in tags. Everybody thinks for that 10 minutes, they put in tags, and they forget about it again until hunting season rolls around, and they're like, oh man, I better get out there and start scouting. Sound familiar? It is. I know that's what a lot of people do. But it doesn't need to be like that. Right now, winter is approaching quickly. It's not here yet, but it's approaching quickly. Right now, if you are unsuccessful, these animals, these big bulls, these big bucks of any species, whitetails or muleys, a lot of times are in post-rut or are approaching post-rut, and these animals are now out in the open. They're not in the dark timber. They're not in the highest of the high country. A lot of times these animals are out where you can see them. And how many people are out there scouting now? None. Very rarely this last week when I'm out looking for animals did I find anybody that was out scouting for next year. This is the type of year where I put a couple of days into scouting. Because for me, number one, all the animals that I see now, I know were there during hunting season. So I can go to brand new areas I've never been to before. And I can literally drive roads, climb to the top of a mountain with spotting scopes, and I can glass afar, and I can tell myself, hey, these animals were there during hunting season. I might not have just have been able to find them. But again, all of a sudden, I have a little bit of intel of which areas are good. If you drive through an area and you do not see an animal right now, not the best area. If you drive through an area and find a bunch of animals, that's a good sign that these animals are within a couple miles of that location during an archery season, a muzzleloader season, or rifle season in which you should be chasing these animals. So again, everybody hangs it up right now as to where spend a couple days. Do yourself a favor. Spend a couple days out there right now and try to see which areas. Hey, I'm going to hunt a brand new area. Go out right now when they're in their wintering grounds, when they're out in the open, when they're vulnerable, and start to see which areas have a lot of elk in them, which areas have not very many elk in them, which ones have a lot of mule deer in them, which ones don't, which ones have a lot of whitetails, which ones don't. But literally, a couple days of scouting right now will go a long ways come spring. Then, let's say we hang it up, we hang out in the winter, ice fish, come ice fish with me this coming winter. In the spring, how many of you shed hunt? Now, I gotta admit, I'm not a shed guy. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. I don't find it enjoyable, but I have a lot of friends that really do. And I'll tell you what, the friends that do great scouting are also the ones that do this week of scouting right now. They scout them right now in late November, early December. They go out and find their sheds. They don't get crazy about it, but they find some sheds in March, April, start even in February. And all of a sudden, these guys say, I knew where they were at this time of year. I found their shed, so I know they survived winter. I know they survived rutting injuries. They survived the lions. They survived that point. I know they're here for this coming hunting season. So they build little pieces of the puzzle, and they know exactly what's available in certain areas. They draw and put in tags, hunting tags for those areas, and they hunt it that fall, and lo and behold, they're building the education, and they're successful. So guys, think about that. This next week, we're starting to delve into, we're talking about predator hunting. So we're going to be talking about lion hunting with and without dogs. We're going to be talking about coyote hunting with a bow. Guys, I'm going to talk a couple of my great friends and amazing predator hunters and coming on this live feed. So we're going to be talking about a lot of predator hunting with a bow. It's a lot of fun. It's very addictive. So we're going to be talking about that over the next couple weeks. We're going to be talking about archery hunting waterfowl. Ducks, geese, decoying. Guys, again, same thing. I used to do this because I was bored and I had nothing to do in the winter, and all of a sudden it's some of the most entertaining days you'll ever have with archery equipment in the fall. So we're going to be talking about all of that, and every week we're also going to put in some pieces to the puzzle of building that education. Even though you're literally 11 months, 10 months, or a year away from the next time in which you'll hunt these animals, the prep never stops. The education never stops. If you want to be more successful, if you want to literally achieve your goals, you have to stay into it almost year-round. So again, we're going to be talking about all of those tools to things you should be doing, even if it's on a very minor note, the small things that will make you more successful this coming fall. And as always, text the word GO LIVE to 77453. Again, text the word right now. grab your phone, text "Go Live" to 77453, and this is going to lead you to every time that we go live. I know we have a lot of hunts still planned. I have an eastern mule deer tag that goes all the way to late November. I'm going to be hunting those post-rut conditions. We will be doing that hunt live in front of all of you to follow along with. I know we got some predator hunts. We got some waterfowl hunts. I know that I will be going live from a lot of different sports shows as we have these educational talks and educational moments. So again, there's a lot of stuff still available. So again, make sure you always text the word "Go Live" to 77453. Opt into that. That way we can send you a notification every time we go live. Guys, and again, we're just getting started. There's more opportunity, new opportunities, and a lot of stuff coming on. I'll be going live every single week as we do now at 7 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday evening. So make sure you stay tuned, guys. Again, I am Nate Zelinsky. Huge thanks to Bowtech Archery for allowing us to take over their feed, allowing us to go live. Guys, huge thanks to all of our partners: Diamond Archery, Black Gold Sights, Ripcord Rest, Tight Spot Quivers, Bass Pro Shops of Denver. Guys, huge thanks to Mr. Heater. They're brand new this week. So again, you guys like this on this Mr. Heater feed, and make sure you type in, let them know you like it. So again, huge thanks to Mr. Heater for going live, Excalibur, Nate Zelinsky, and again, thanks for everybody watching at bowtecharchery.com. Guys, you'll be seeing a lot of us very soon. Again, thank you so much. I'm Nate Zelinsky. Tell your friends to stay tuned. Make sure we all are watching this feed, sharing it, and building the education to be more successful as a hunter. Again, thanks for watching. I'm Nate Zelinsky.